This guy can do anything. With just his golden hand and a sacred hammer, he can forge gold bars in seconds. So you'll never be broke or hungry again. Give him a rock, and he'll turn it into a teleportation crystal. No old cars required. Lost a leg? He'll bring it back like it never left. And no hospital or prosthetics are needed. He carries an infinite storage box, because pockets aren't enough when you're this overpowered. He can heal a dying old woman and restore her to her youthful prime. No fountain of youth required. And if he needs more muscle, he can enhance his body like Superman. Stronger, faster, unstoppable. And that's just the start. There's a lot more to this guy, but before I spoil the fun, let's dive into the story. In the Happosai blacksmith store, Vil Craft activated his golden hand and connected it to the divine hammer Mjolnir to forge a sacred relic. In a stomp, a masterpiece was created. At the same place, inside the living room, Vil received shocking news from his fiancée, Cyril Hassan. She wanted to call off their engagement. Though their parents arranged this engagement to make the Hassan Trading Company rise with Vil's forging skills, Cyril didn't care because she found her true love with Vil's brother, Sechin Craft. They have been in this relationship since Cyril's father passed away. Due to her loneliness, Sechin comforted her while Vil was busy forging. Vil's business was because he wanted to rebuild the Hassan Trading Company after its collapse, but Sechin believed the company rose due to a major client coming around, not because of Vil. When Cyril said no, Vil thought she believed in him, but to his dismay, Cyril was confident that people recognized her determination, and that's why the company got back up. Vil didn't want them to live in the house he and Cyril built, but after hearing the shocking news that they had already clap and that it bore fruit, Vil became furious and was about to hit his brother. Since he didn't want Cyril to be terrified of his action, he ran to let them do whatever they wanted. This itchy worm with a thick face wall has the nerve to stop Vil because she wants him to stay as the company's blacksmith, but the exploitative Sechin is confident he could take care of smithing. Vil didn't care about these two itchy anymore and left the place. When Sechin was young, he was jealous of Vil because their father always favored him. He also wanted to take over the store, but father clarified that Vil was a genius blessed by gods with a golden hand. Sechin believed that he and Vil had the same level of ability, and since he hated Vil for having everything, he took it all from him. A while later, Princess Anne Rose arrived with pairs of heavy melons. What I mean is bouquets of flowers, and she was looking for Master Happosai. While the two itchy morons were shocked at her sudden visit and respectfully kneeled, Princess Anne Rose apologized after realizing that Happosai was just the name of the store. She just came to congratulate Vil Craft for opening a new store. While Sechin wondered why a princess would visit a random smith shop looking for Vil, Anne Rose recognized Cyril as the trading company president's daughter and Vil's fiancée. She was envious of her for having a chance to marry such an amazing person. But after learning that the engagement had already been called off and Vil had already left the shop, a smile formed on her face. Sechin was now the owner of the Happosai and would take full responsibility for everything. However, the princess has no interest in him, so she turns her back and orders one of the royal knights to cancel all dealings with Hassan's trading company immediately. Since she was certain Vil hadn't gone too far yet, she gave an emergency order to find him. The royal knight didn't see any problem with Sechin's taking over the Happosai, which made the princess question him if he really didn't know about Happosai. Meanwhile, Vil was near the lake throwing a rock. He made a decision not to come back again, even if they came crawling to apologize. He furiously activated his golden hand and connected it to the divine hammer Mjolnir. A Happosai is someone like his grandfather, a blacksmith blessed with the golden hand. Golden hand carries a unique crafting skill, and every generation of Happosai has it. Vil activated his ultra alchemy skill and created a gold bar in a stomp. With this, he could have enough travel funds for a long time, but since he could cause a financial crash in the market if he sold it, he decided not to go overboard. According to Grandpa Genkoji Craft, someone blessed with a golden hand only gets one skill, but in the entire history of Happosai, Vil is the only one who has 5 different crafting skills. Before Genkoji left the earth, he handed Vil the sacred relic he created, the divine hammer Mjolnir. From today onward, Vil was one of the Happosai who honed their craft to forge divine artifacts. After inheriting the shop's name and the Mjolnir from his grandfather, Vil maintained the city barrier, the hero's swords, the sacred relic, and everything important, all on orders from the king. The reason this world and this kingdom are still at peace today is because a Happosai existed. Though danger would come, this kingdom could still hold out for a year because of the barrier Vil created. The royal guard suggested informing the heroine, Caroline, but the princess believed it wasn't the right time yet because Caroline's holy sword was well maintained by Vil, so even if a horde of ancient dragons or something attacked, they would be fine for a while. She ordered them to find Vil, protect the barrier, and secure the safety of the capital. Since the hero Caroline looks at Vil as a man, now that he is finally single, the princess plans to lock him down first before some other pest tries to snatch him up. At the same time, Vil opened a storage box and placed the gold bar inside. Now that his brother Sechin can take care of the shop, Vil intends to fulfill the true mission of Happosai. Before dying, Genkoji Craft informs him that he must use the Mjolnir as a reference to forge original sacred relics and offer them to the heavens. Vil tosses the rock into the air, and using the hammer, he manages to forge an SSS rank drifting teleportation crystal in an instant. This crystal can teleport him to a random location he has never been to before. During teleportation, he declared on becoming a legendary craftsman like his grandpa, traveling the world, honing his skill, sharpening his inspiration, and one day, forging a sacred relic even more incredible than the Mjolnir he inherited. Upon being teleported to an unknown location, he suddenly heard a scream from a girl who was running for her life, begging someone to save her. In a swing using his sacred hammer, the huge beast was erased in an instant as if it were a mere hand-drawn image. Well, he was originally hand-drawn because this is a manga. Anyway, he looked around and noticed he had drifted into a forest. He looked at the kids and was shocked to see her leg decapitated. He asked if the beast girl was alright and learned she was a slave because of the collar at her neck. He looks behind and assumes the monster has already eaten the merchant. Looking back at the child, who is now screaming in pain, Vil slowly approaches her and summons his Mjolnir. He pointed with assurance before activating the skill full restoration. He swung the Mjolnir towards her leg, and in a second, her decapitated feet was restored in its original form. Shock. The girl observed her feet before standing up. Baffled at what had occurred, Vil explained what he did and tried another spell. Using the disassemble skill, he easily freed her from being a slave. Though a wrong move can blow her head by removing the collar, Vil easily removes it without any problem. This girl is Poro, and was thankful for saving her. Since it's already dark, Vil finds a spot that fits their camp. He hit the 3, and it started to move until it created a treehouse, shocking the ugliness of Poro. Meanwhile, a knight stood frozen, looking above a pile of dead dragons. On top of it was the heroine of the Holy Ice Sword, Caroline Iceberg. They couldn't believe how she defeated all these monsters alone and concluded that her power was necessary to maintain the peace in this kingdom. The knight told her to come with them to the royal capital, but Caroline was focused on her damaged holy sword. Seeing her smile, the knight blushed, but Caroline suddenly disappeared and teleported to Gerdaniga Kingdom, royal capital. The holy sword, Ice, transformed into a cute little kitten and noticed how excited she was to meet her beloved prince, Vil. Ice admitted she also loved Vil because nobody else ever maintained her carefully with care. According to Vil, the holy sword will only get damaged when fighting 100 ancient dragon, so Ice irritably scratches Caroline's head for pushing Ice to her limits to test if Vil's conclusion is true. Upon arriving near the shop, Caroline looks at the mirror before entering. While Sechin was in awe at her beauty, Caroline's smile faded when it dawned on her that the one who greeted her wasn't Vil, so she asked where he was. Even though she was told Vil wasn't at the place, she went inside to wait for him. But upon learning Vil got fired, she glared furiously at Sechin and released an intense aura, scaring the itchy worm. She pointed her sword at him and wanted to know where Vil was because she wanted him to repair her sword. Thinking that Caroline was only mad because no one would maintain her holy sword, Sechin confidently stated he could repair it. Caroline didn't believe in him, but since Sechin was Vil's younger brother, Ice assumed this idiot had a chance. Aside from Caroline, only Vil can see the spirit of the holy sword. Sechin assumes his brother's job is just a piece of cake, so he snatches the sword from her and is certain Caroline will keep coming back if she sees his skills. He started fixing the sword thinking that he could also do whatever his brother could do, but in process, Ice was striking in pain. However, this moron couldn't see the spirit of the holy sword, so he kept going but stopped when an intense aura filled the room and felt that his arm was breaking. Caroline summons back the sword and informs him that the sword is pissed off, but Sechin sees it as nonsense because the object can't get mad. Ice sighed hopelessly, certain that this guy was trash. After informing the loser that the holy sword had the will on its own and was maintained by Vil so it could perform at its best, Caroline told him she would never return. Compared to Vil, Sechin's skills were worlds apart. Cyril arrived only to witness her partner begging Caroline to wait. Sechin informed Cyril of what had occurred and assumed that they still had plenty of other customers even if they lost one heroine. Seeing how idiot this bastard is, Cyril yells at him, informing him that being hated by Lady Caroline is like the whole kingdom hates him too. They started arguing, but when an employee notified them that the royal family had canceled their contracts, they stood frozen in shock, speechless as if they heard their neighborhood murmuring about a fish who gave birth to Mr. Bean, who transmigrated into another world but didn't receive any skill because the goddess knew he would only use the magic by messing with things by pointing his finger at anything he saw and smile like this as if he is the only living person in the universe. Anyway, Poro was having the best of her life as she take a bath, eats delicio's meal, wear an Amazon clothes, and have a comfortable bed. Vil just enchanted the house with thermal insulation and forged a box meal using material he pulled out from storage. Seeing Poro's amazement with his magic, Vil recalled how Cyril properly praised him. After hearing Poro call him a divine, he remembered how genius his grandpa was for inventing incredible tools one after another. On the other hand, his father wasn't as talented as his grandpa, but was careful, hardworking, and always crafted things for someone else's sake. Vil learned his skill from a genius and regular man, so he responded to Poro that he was just a blacksmith who wanted to make people smile with the things he created. To his annoyance, Poro already sleeps because of exhaustion. Morning came, and when Vil woke up and stretched his dark underarm, he was surprised to see floppy humps and a huge pair of healthy melons lying in bed. He observed the beautiful girl, and upon seeing her ears, he got a hunch. The girl woke up and casually greeted Vil. Her behavior confirmed to him that she was Poro. Just look at his mouth, it was wide open as if ready to receive freshly harvested melons. Well, it seemed like Poro had undergone some kind of existential evolution. A while later, Poro walked quickly, happy with the clothes Vil had made for her. As for the evolution she mentioned earlier, it was similar to how a monster evolves into a high-tier species after absorbing a large amount of mana. Since beast folk like Poro also carry mixed monster blood, she evolved under the same principle. The reason for her transformation was the food Vil gave her last night. It was filled with mana. I bet she'll evolve even more if she eats my sausage. It also has a lot of mana, white mana, Anyway, when Vil wondered aloud why she was following him, she asked if he disliked her. She had no home to return to and was willing to serve him. On top of that, she could now bear children. Hearing that made your typical ugly, virgin loser run back to his mom's cave. They stopped upon stepping into the water and saw a village sign, dead end. Looking around, all they could see was a lake, no village in sight. An ugly, wrinkled old man who looked like he couldn't survive even one round of clap-clap introduced himself as the village chief, Arthur. The village had no young members left, and it had been flooded due to heavy rain the other day. Even if there were younger people, draining the water would have been impossible. Vil walked to the top of the area and saw that the village was surrounded by mountains, which was why the flood had nowhere to go. He raised Mjolnir and changed its size. He slammed it down on the opposite side to create a massive hole, then smashed part of a mountain to redirect the water into the hole he had made. After draining the area, they entered the village. Upon seeing the destroyed houses, Vil released common ore from his box. Activating his golden hand and using full restoration plus alchemy, he slammed Mjolnir to the ground. The materials floated into place and attached themselves where they belonged. Soon, the dead-end village was rebuilt, stronger than before, which made Arthur wonder if Vil was a powerful mage. Now that the village elders could live in peace, they bowed deeply to Vil, grateful for everything he had done. Still, your humble servant Vil saw it as nothing more than a piece of cake, thanks to his golden hand. But the chief insisted on repaying him. They couldn't rest until they had shown their gratitude. So Vil asked if they had any unusual weapons or tools. Arthur brought him to a special room and revealed a cursed sword. Long ago, a hero had defeated an evil god with this sword and saved the village. But afterward, the hero went mad, so Arthur's ancestors sealed the weapon in a shrine. Vil picked up the sword, which worried the chief. They couldn't even touch it without harm. Vil asked them to step outside, but since Poro wanted to protect him, Vil decided to forge it quickly. The weapon was said to be possessed by a powerful witch, yet Vil used only level 1. Destruction of all things to decompose it, shocking the old man. Upon unsheathing the blade, he saw how damaged and rusty it was and concluded that the sword had been suffering in silence for ages. Seeing Vil speak to the sword baffled Arthur. Suddenly, a dark aura emerged from it. Vil realized the sword was cursed with a spell that caused its wielder to go berserk. The terrifying spirit within the sword fully revealed itself. When Vil asked who it was, the others were confused, wondering who he was talking to, and asked if he could actually see the spirit. Arthur knew only a few chosen ones could see spirits residing in holy swords, but this one was cursed, so it made no sense. Originally, tools were made for anyone to use. The holy swords had one fatal flaw: only the chosen one could wield them. A sword that rejects all others, that's the real curse. The others urged him to drop the sword before it drove him mad. But Vil could feel the sword's sorrow. It was afraid. It just wanted peace. Determined to help it, he activated his golden hand and declared that repairing tools was his duty as a Hapusai blacksmith. He gave the cursed sword a name, Yajura. With a thunderous slam of Mjolnir, the spirit shrieked, and a pillar of light shot into the sky. During the super forging process, the others were nearly blown away from their positions. Meanwhile, at Gaidaniga Kingdom, as Caroline searched for Vil, Ice witnessed the birth of a new holy sword. After finishing forging the sword, the spirit transformed like Sailor Moon and turned into a beautiful lady. Yozora felt honored to meet her creator and was thankful for engraving her name. She had been reborn from a cursed sword into a holy sword. Surprisingly, Poro could also see her form, so Vil tossed the sword to Poro. Knowing that a hero could only use a holy sword, she trembled but then suddenly moved with the grace of an expert swordsman. Upon sheathing the dark holy sword, she realized she could intuitively understand how to swing it just by holding it. Having witnessed Poro's evolution earlier that morning, Vil did the same to the cursed sword. Arthur was amazed since Vil was the first human to create a holy sword. Hearing this, Vil remembered his grandfather's frustration as he had been unable to create one. Still, since Vil hadn't created this holy sword from scratch, he promised that he would forge a divine weapon from the ground up, one he could be truly proud of. Meanwhile, Ice realized that the holy sword hadn't descended from the world of gods to earth. It had been born in this world. Her jaw dropped when it dawned on her that the holy sword had been made by humans. Instead of being shocked, Caroline chuckled, knowing that Vil was the one behind it. With this, the world would soon recognize Vil's power, but as she realized Vil would become popular, she quickly jumped down and ordered Ice to find the holy sword's location. As Vil left Dead End Village in a carriage, heading for the Madukas Empire, he reflected on the gift the villagers had given him. They gave him this carriage and entrusted him with the dark holy sword. Vil told Poro to take care of Yozora and ensure the sword brought smiles to others someday. Speaking of Yozora, she was enjoying the fresh air atop the carriage and promised to teach Poro swordsmanship as a thank you. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind hit, coming from an ugly green dragon. Instead of being afraid, Vil saw the dragon as nothing more than material for armor. Yozora stepped in to train Poro, and when the green dragon was about to attack, the two met it in midair. With her eyes closed, Poro unsheathed the dark holy sword and sliced at the dragon's neck. However, its thick skin dulled the strike, giving the dragon an opportunity to gather fire. Poro trembled in fear. With Yozora's guidance, Poro opened her eyes and saw the dragon's weak spot. The beast spit fire, but with Yozora's help, Poro managed to neutralize it and quickly launched a successful attack, defeating the green dragon. The truth was, Poro hadn't even unleashed 1% of Yozora's power, even with the buffs. But as a first-timer, Vil gave her a passing score. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Caroline was racing to find Vil. She knew that a holy sword had the power to destroy a kingdom, and asked Ice what would happen if every kingdom found out about Vil's existence. Ice was afraid that wars would break out over Vil, but Caroline didn't care about that. She wanted to propose to Vil before anyone else could. If it became known that Vil had created a holy sword, everyone in the world would rush to propose to him. Caroline declared that she wouldn't let that happen. Hearing her selfish reasoning, Ice reluctantly told her the holy sword's location. It was in the Madukas Empire, the land of heroes. As Vil and his chica babies looked up, multiple thunderbolts formed in the sky, crashing to the ground. Though Vil had a hunch about who was behind this, a girl with an eye patch on her left eye, carrying twin large crystal balls and a whip with thorns, was pleased to finally have found her master. After greeting her master, she quickly dashed to test if Poro had the ability to protect him. Vil tried to stop them, but the two had already launched their weapons. While Poro was on the defensive, Leica revealed that her weapon was a Thunder Holy Sword, Thunder Thorn. Caroline froze upon hearing that Leica, the Thunder Hero, was the first to make contact with Vil. There were 6 holy swords in the 6 continents, and all 6 owners of these swords were beautiful girls. Annoyed, Caroline ran faster, declaring that she would kill the pervert Leica if she tried to seduce Vil. Leica finally caught Poro, and seeing her struggle to cut through her whip using a holy sword, she released her midair, preparing to end her life. Before Poro's role ended in this manga, Vil used the alchemy air block, causing the thunder to strike the barrier and change trajectory toward a mountain, destroying the whole mountain. Vil looked into the air to catch his food, and when it landed, he apologized. Leica's expression darkened, and she stated she couldn't accept Poro as Vil's woman because she was too weak. Vil tried to clarify that Poro wasn't his woman, but Leica reminded him of his promise. He would become her husband if she won. This revelation made Vil's face turn ugly. Uglier than your grandpa without teeth. Vil wondered if she was joking, but Leica was dead serious about making him her husband. She whipped her weapon, creating a terrifying thundercloud. This was her new move, the Dragon Heavenly Thunder Dragon. She launched it toward her master, making Yozora worry because if it landed, the entire area would be reduced to scorched earth. Vil had no choice but to release his hammer limit. He threw it toward the Thunder Dragon, and with his max level skill, annihilation of all things, the Thunder Dragon vanished into thin air. As Vil summoned back his hammer, Leica stood frozen, already expecting this from her master. Vil revealed to Poro that Leica was a hero from the Madukas Empire. She was the bearer of the evil eye, Jagan. When she was a child, a dangerous individual cursed her with the death god's cursed eye. Anything seen by her right eye dies. Her eye was a cursed item, and even with treatment, it would revert back. Despite being a holy sword wielder, the Empire locked her away in an underground prison. After some time searching, the Empire finally called Vil, but Vil couldn't destroy or remove the evil eye. All he could do was suppress it completely by creating a sealing magic tool. Because of this eye, Leica was feared by everyone as a death god and left alone in a dark prison. Vil was the one who saved her, and she was grateful to him. She loved him but didn't want to always be protected by him. She wanted to become strong enough to defeat her master. When she realized that Vil was the only one who could create a holy sword, she rushed to accomplish her goal. Vil approached her, smiling as he told her to remove the seal on her eye. Knowing the danger it might cause, Leica hesitated. But when Vil asked if she could entrust her life to him, she gladly answered yes. Still, fearing that she might kill her master, her body trembled as she nervously tried to remove the eye patch. Seeing her hesitation, Vil came closer and removed the seal himself. In an instant, he recognized the error in a cursed item and quickly activated destruction of all things, along with ultra alchemy. Leica was shocked to see her master still alive. Thinking that the curse might trigger again, she quickly covered her eyes. Vil assured her that he was alive and that she was fully healed. Since Leica's right eye was a cursed item, Vil turned it into a divine artifact, just like Yozora's. The removal of the evil eye wasn't about the eye itself. It was the structure of the curse that mattered. He dismantled the cursed item and then reconstructed it. Leica launched a big bazooka attack, pinning Vil to the ground. She cried, amazed at how her master had broken the curse. She thanked him and expressed her desire to marry him. But as usual, you know how an MC like him would respond. In the Jerdaniga kingdom, Sechin forged weapons using the illusionary curse seal. By pressing it, he could fake everything. He thanked the hooded man for the skill. But the hooded man told him it was nothing and asked him to use it well. Back at the floppy twin mountains of Fuji, now that Leica possessed the divine eye, she was certain she could defeat her master. She launched the twin bazooka to stop Vil's time, but only bounced off and landed on Poro. The technique worked on Poro, not Vil, because Vil was the one who had created her divine artifact, the Eye of Time King. Since a god wouldn't want to be killed by a human using an artifact they created, it had a built-in safety mechanism. While Poro was amazed, the gorilla girl was throwing a tantrum. Vil and his chica babies were about to reach the Madukas Empire, and inside the carriage, your hot mama was still teasing our boy. Leica planned on reporting to Her Majesty that Vil had already healed her eye. The Empire was luxurious and magnificent in Vil's eyes. It also had a barrier like a giant dome. Since the barrier was invisible to humans, Yozora was amazed that he could see it and concluded that his skill as a craftsman had improved. Though Vil had previously done maintenance on the barrier, this was his first time seeing it. They arrived at the imperial castle and were greeted by an ugly old woman, Artemis, the empress of the kingdom. You might ask, why is a woman leading an empire? Well, in this kingdom, only the powerful rise to the top and can become their leader. Since Artemis led her private army to victory by destroying enemies, she became the first empress in their history. Artemis had been the one to call Vil to heal Leica back then, and she was thankful for lifting Leica's curse for a second time. As you can see, this old woman was coughing terribly because her lungs were severely damaged. Even with the latest medical technology, her condition couldn't be cured. The Empress's body was breaking down, and she believed what the doctor said. She hadn't had much time left. Still, she was happy because she could thank Vil properly before she died. Vil respectfully asked if she would allow him to heal her broken body, shocking the Empress. All the healers and saints had given up on her, so she doubted that a blacksmith could heal her. After all, objects and people were different. But Vil's skills could heal injuries and restore missing parts. Since the Empress's body was breaking down, he intended to heal the parts damaged by the disease. With Leica's reassurance, the Empress lay down on her throne, accepting his offer. Vil activated his golden hand, combining it with the full restoration technique. In a single strike, Artemis was engulfed by a bright 7-colored light. During the healing process, Colonel Akiak arrived with an emergency report. Seeing unknown figures near the Empress, he became alert and was about to draw his sword, but Leica clarified that they were guests who were treating the Empress's illness. Akiak apologized and informed her that the barrier device had broken. The demon insects were heading toward the imperial capital. Leica quickly went outside to assess the situation, and to her horror, a horde of giant insects was nearing the Empire. The people were panicking. Leica immediately gave orders. While she would face the demon insects, Akuyak was to handle the evacuation of the imperial citizens. However, the demon insects were invading through the broken barrier. Since there was no engineer in the Empire, the barrier couldn't be repaired. Vil could fix it in an instant, so he slowly walked toward the barrier, but the colonel didn't believe him and tried to stop him. His rotten, smelly ass dropped to the ground when Vil activated his golden hand, and seeing the same magic circle that had appeared around Leica's cursed eye, he immediately jumped into the sky. Before this disgusting monster and its minions could enter through the broken barrier, Vil struck it with the reconstruction technique. A loud boom echoed through the air, stunning the citizens. With that single strike, the demon insects were annihilated and the barrier was repaired. Vil even upgraded the barrier. It could now be maintained without any device, and he added an effect that would instantly erase any monster that touched it. When Akiak irritably mentioned how no humans could see the barrier, Vil didn't respond. Instead, he revealed that the barrier device wouldn't break down from simple wear and tear over time, unless someone destroyed it on purpose. Akiak broke into a cold sweat. Even though Vil hadn't directly accused him, the Empress came outside, looking youthful with her healthy melons, her body transformed. Everyone was shocked. Akiak only recognized her because of the crown, which made the Empress disappointed. As the ugly rat and the gorilla's mouths dropped into the toilet, the Empress revealed to the citizens that Vil had repaired her broken body. Her aged and damaged cells were replaced with new ones, restoring her to her younger form. While the citizens were in awe of this miracle, Artemis ordered the soldiers to imprison Akuyak in the dungeon. Still, Akuyak refused to go down without a fight. With the 7 fortune dust, he vowed to take everyone with him to the afterlife. As Vil contemplated the 7 fortune dust, the Empress rushed in, carrying her Big Bang bazooka, along with her dark Cade, and kicked the Colonel's ugly body, sending him to another universe. Before Akuyak exploded into the sky, Artemis declared she would not forgive anyone who tried to harm the Empire. As the people cheered for their majesty, Artemis wanted to repay Vil. A smile from her was enough reward for Vil, which made the Empress blush. Observing this, Poro and Leica realized that another rival had appeared. Meanwhile, Vil remained curious about the 7 fortune dust. At the Hassan Company, ever since the royal family stopped giving Circle work, the nobles stopped coming as well. A sudden knock at the door irritated her. She didn't want any visitors because she was busy. But to her surprise, the S-rank guild master opened the door. Circle apologized for her behavior, but the guild master had only come to inform her that she was satisfied with the weapons Vil had made, so she had ordered another 50 sets. She dropped the 50 weapons made by Sechin, which made Circle glad because she believed Sechin had put his heart into them. However, despite the beautiful appearance of the swords, they were fragile. The swords might look like A rank, but they were completely fake. The guild master's subordinate had almost been seriously injured because of one of those weapons, so she planned to sue the Hassan Company for fraud. Knowing that the company might collapse if they were sued, Circle begged the guild master to give them another chance, but the guild master was firm in her decision. After the sexy lady left the shop, Sechin was in the smithing room, acting crazy as he continued to use the illusionary curse seal to create fake weapons. Circle threw the broken sword he made at him and informed him that they had received a complaint from an S-rank adventurer guild. Sechin didn't see the problem. He believed in quantity over quality. If they could sell it, they would make money. Circle couldn't believe those words came from a craftsman. She angrily pressed the point into his tiny brain. If the quality was lowered, customers would leave. She ordered him to forge at least one A-rank sword, but Sechin had no ability to create one. She cried, realizing that Vil had been the one supporting the Hassan Company all along. Hearing his brother's name made Sechin furious. He claimed that with his cursed item, he could instantly turn any weapon into a sacred artifact. Circle was fed up with this idiot and believed there was no way something like that could exist. However, Vil's image, holding Mjolnir, flashed in her mind. She was about to leave when Sechin stopped her. She slapped him hard, saying that Vil was far better than him. Left alone, Sechin couldn't accept that everyone thought Vil was better than him. Full of rage, he released a dark energy into the air, which could be seen from a distance. Meanwhile, Vil and Poro arrive in the Dirali area, a territory given to Vil by the Empress. After saving the Empire from crisis 3 times, the Empress insisted on rewarding him with this land. Now with the Dirali territory, Vil's official title was Vil Craft Dirali. Noticing a mine on the map, Vil concluded that the Empire would send people to manage the territory. As he thought about building a workshop, Poro spotted a village from afar. They went there and observed how quiet the place was. Suddenly, a woman tripped while being chased by a lizard. Before it could do any harm, Vil used his skill to create a barrier. Poro rushed to finish off the lizard, but the girl shielded it, shouting that it was her grandpa. Upon learning that Vil was Vil Craft Dirali, the villagers knelt before their new lord, begging him to save their village. A while later, they entered a house where Noah introduced herself and the village chief, her grandpa Sabaz. She showed them the lizard scale on her skin, a curse from the White Dragon living in the White Dragon ruins. The White Dragon was an ancient deity that commanded the wind. If that wind touched a person, they would be cursed with dragon transformation. If the curse spread further, the person would turn into a full-blown lizard man. Vil noticed a magic circle on the village chief's forehead, so he stood up and pointed Mjolnir at the lizard. He activated his golden hand, and using the Destruction Reconstruction skill, smashed Mjolnir into the lizard's forehead, returning it to its original form, an ugly goblin, or rather, an old man wearing a diaper. After the two thanked him, the people lined up to get healed by Vil. Seeing this made the train tunnel wide open. Now that everyone had returned to normal, Vil waved them goodbye and was about to head to the White Dragon's nest. He assumed that the 7 fortune dust had finally revealed themselves. They arrived at the White Dragon ruins and were horrified by the sight of what had become of the humans there. Fortunately, Vil had already activated his barrier, preventing them from meeting the same fate. He could sense that something was off about the place. The curse didn't seem to originate from it. Poro tried to look around but was suddenly shoved aside by the disgusting tail of a dragon that was said to be white. Yet this one was black. It spat fire at her, but before she was burned alive, Vil stepped in and shielded her by activating Supreme Suppression. The dragon kept launching flames, but they couldn't penetrate Vil's upgraded barrier, the same one he used in the Imperial capital. Frustrated, the dragon stopped spewing its foul fire and attempted a physical attack, but that too was ineffective. It bounced off the barrier and crashed to the ground. The impact caused the ground to crack open, and they fell down along with the dragon. Luckily, the barrier protected them from harm upon landing. Hearing the dragon growl weakly, Vil assumed it couldn't fly because of the curse. As he walked closer, it suddenly rose and growled at him. Vil couldn't tell if the dragon was crying from sadness or pain, but either way, he chose to help. He stood firm, his power still active, and when the dragon calmly lowered its head toward him, he used purification and restoration, then struck its head. With that, the curse was lifted, and the dragon returned to its true form, a white dragon. Vil was surprised when the dragon spoke. She explained that she was a demon god. Grateful, she thanked him. But when Poro mentioned Vil's full name, Vil Craft Raleigh, the dragon was stunned. Her own name was also Rowley, a name given to her long ago by the king who once ruled these lands. Vil apologized for trespassing, but the white dragon didn't mind. The kingdom had long since vanished. She explained that she had been alone for ages, and after the king's death, sadness consumed her. Eventually, the curse's poison overtook her. She was shocked to learn she had been unknowingly spreading the curse to the people of this land. Vil assured her it wasn't her fault and pointed to the ground. It was infused with a concealment technique, one that normal people couldn't see, but she could. This technique channeled negative energy into chaos and served as a barrier to trap demon gods. Vil suspected that the one responsible for the curse was the group known as 7 Fortune Dust. Furious, the white dragon tried to destroy the cursed ground, but her efforts were futile. Then Vil used his Mjolnir, combined with deconstruction and reconstruction, to remodel her home. When the bright light faded, the ruins had become a magnificent castle, and the cursed barrier was gone. Now the dragon was free to leave or enter as she pleased. The white dragon transformed into a beautiful woman and remarked that the castle had become a divine domain thanks to Vil's power. The two intruders had no idea what she meant, so Raleigh explained that when gods descend from the heavens to the lower world, their powers weaken. However, within a divine domain, they can regain their full strength, even in human form. Vil was stunned to learn he had unknowingly created a divine domain. Rowley noticed his golden hand and called it the crest of the sun. Vil's divine blessing was the mark of the owner of the sun's hand. Since the dawn of creation, only a handful had possessed it. The realization triggered a memory for Rowley. The same crest was engraved in her own domain. They went outside so she could show them. The king had treasured this place, though she never understood its meaning. She jumped around into the center of the engraved circle, but nothing happened. Vil approached and tried to find a trigger. Upon placing his golden hand above it, the circle began to glow, and slowly it started pulling him in. Vil's vision went dark, and when he opened his eyes, he was shocked to find himself in an entirely different place. Thanks to Rowley's telepathy, they could communicate mentally, even from a distance. Through that connection, they could also share senses. Vil had been swallowed up by the crest on the ground and transported into what seemed like a city. As he walked, he bumped into an invisible wall. He reached out to touch it, and looking up, he noticed that although it appeared to be morning, there was no sun. He concluded that he was underground. Everything around him was artificial. The crest at the entrance, the man-made environment, this entire beautiful city was part of Hasei's legendary workshop. According to Gankoji, no one was ever allowed to enter it, and with beings as powerful as Rowley nearby, no intruder should have been able to set foot in the place. Upon touching a golden circle, a hidden passageway opened. Rowley pointed in a specific direction and told him that deep inside was an ultra-rare dungeon known as the Seventh Hell, one of the 7 secret dungeons said to exist in the world. So far, only one has ever been confirmed. There was no lingering magic in the air or traces of human presence, which meant Vil was the first person to set foot in this dungeon. Although it had been built by Haposai, Vil sensed the place had long been abandoned. Off to the side, he noticed a vein of ore, an unknown mineral that might be useful in forging new weapons. According to a book Rowley had read before coming to this country, dungeon walls were supposed to be indestructible. To her shock, Vil casually destroyed one using matter erasure and level 1 disassemble. He didn't even realize that what he used was a demon-class skill, an incredibly dangerous ability that completely erases anything it touches without leaving a trace. He summoned his storage box and placed the rare material inside, causing Rowley to nearly lose her soul in disbelief from witnessing yet another strange skill. The box was attached to Vil's golden hand, but Rowley had thought the golden hand could only possess one skill. To her amazement, Vil had several: hyperforging, imbuement, matter erasure, full restoration, and a 5th one he considered disposable. He retrieved an item from the box to map the area, and within seconds, he had already compiled data on the entire dungeon. He shared it with Rowley, who turned into an ugly grandma who hadn't received her pension in a year, because her good-for-nothing son claimed it. Vil explained that when he'd struck the ore earlier, he had used the shockwave to scan the surroundings like sonar. Rowley was astonished and called him a god, but Vil humbly replied that he was just a blacksmith who was a little good at making things. Afterward, he returned to the surface and was warmly hugged by Poro, who had been deeply worried about him. Though Vil thought he had been gone for less than an hour, 10 days had actually passed in the real world. Time flowed differently in secret dungeons. To comfort Poro because he made her worried, Vil gave her a gift, a hair clip. They can communicate through this no matter where they are. While Poro was so glad after testing it, Vil explained to curious Rowley that it's a telepathy-enabled hair clip, basically an indestructible telepathic item. After everything she'd seen, Rowley was left speechless. Vil asks her a favor, and after he says it, the scene changes to the Doraemon village. Into Roraemon village, where Sebas was coughing from overworking himself, and Noah worriedly advised him to take a break. But your stubborn grandpa insisted on continuing. He was determined to restore the village quickly. Before she could argue further, Vil arrived, riding the white dragon, declaring that it was his duty as lord to help. The villagers were shocked and terrified at the sight of the white dragon. Believing it was still cursed, they started to flee. Sensing the fear, Rowley considered leaving to avoid causing trouble. But Poro quickly stepped in, announcing that Lord Vil Craft to Rowley had already lifted the curse. Vil reassured them that the dragon was no longer a threat, and that she wanted to make amends for the harm she had caused. Rowley had no idea what he was doing for her, so she let him pick a scale from her to use as material. He threw it into the air, and when it landed, he activated hyperforging. The cracked ground reassembled into a beautiful statue of the white dragon, now a glowing rainbow-colored fountain. As the shimmering water landed on the villagers, they felt a soothing sensation, with power surging through their bodies. Since Rowley's scales hold the healing power of a demon god, Vil figured out that if he turned it into a fountain, everyone could benefit from that power forever. He got everyone's attention, announcing that it was the healing power of the white dragon god. Just one sip can heal any illness or injury instantly. This is the white dragon's way of making amendments, and he was hoping they could accept it. The villager knelt on the ground and respectfully thanked the white dragon. Teary-eyed, Rowley thanked Vil. A carrier owl landed on his shoulder with an emergency message from the Empire. Vil must go to the capital immediately because the ice heroine was injured in a battle with a mysterious beast, and the holy ice sword, the iceberg, was also damaged. 4 hours earlier, in the imperial capital of Carter, Caroline was battling a massive tentacled monster. She struggled to defeat it, and had no choice but to use her trump card. Leaping into the air, she swung her sword in a circular motion until a twin moon formed. She launched the enormous twin moon directly at the monster, and upon impact, a massive explosion echoed throughout the area. As the tentacles scattered into the air, Ice concluded that anyone struck by the freezing power of the full moon would be obliterated. But to her shock, one of the tentacles struck Caroline hard, sending her crashing to the ground. Ice looked up and saw the monster regenerating its tentacles rapidly. With Caroline gravely injured and unable to fight, Ice had no choice but to step in. She was grateful to Caroline for wielding her. With that, she dashed toward the monster with all her strength and unleashed absolute zero. Caroline awoke in a hospital room, only to immediately lose consciousness again. Vil caught her before she fell and assured her everything would be fine. As Caroline explained everything that had happened, Rowley was napping on the hospital roof. Vil understood her sadness. The Holy Sword Iceberg was like family to her. When Poro asked if the Holy Sword could be repaired, Vil explained that there was a reason Hapausai had been entrusted with its care. Once broken, a Holy Sword could never be fully restored. If it shattered, that was the end. Looking at the remaining fragment of the sword, Caroline regretted not thanking Ice. But Vil noticed something. The fragment was the core, the very source of the sword's power. With it, there might be a chance to restore the Holy Sword. However, even the slightest mistake could destroy it completely. Caroline couldn't live without Ice, so she entrusted her to Vil. Vil picked up his Mjolnir, recalling that even his grandfather couldn't repair a lesser holy sword. He doubted himself, but still he chose to try. Before striking the core, he visualized the iceberg's blueprint and considered the materials needed. He activated his golden hand, combining 5 crafting skills and channeling the knowledge of past masters. With that, he created a new skill, Divine Artifact Restoration. Meanwhile, Leica stood before the frozen monster, confused about what this creature truly was. Suddenly, the ice shattered, and one of the monster's tentacles broke free. It attacked, prompting Leica to order the warriors to fire. The tentacle remained unscathed and disintegrated some of the guards. After realizing the monster could regenerate, she let it taste her lightning, the Thunder Serpent. The tentacle was electrified, but those foolish enough to touch it collapsed as it drained their power. At this rate, they would be fried alive. As the tentacle attempted to destroy the ice seal, the soldiers grew alarmed. Leica considered using her Holy Sword technique, even though it would drain all her magic and shorten her sword's lifespan. The platoon leader commanded the others to retreat and defend the Imperial capital at all costs. Leica apologized to Thunder, her Holy Sword, for being such a reckless wielder, but Thunder reassured her he had enjoyed their time together. The monster finally broke free from the ice seal and launched an attack. Ahem. I advise you not to spread your legs, Leica. Leica removed her eye patch, activating the Eye of the Time King. With the monster's time frozen, she rose into the air and unleashed her Holy Sword technique. The World Lightning Emperor Serpent formed and struck the monster. The resulting impact blew the desert away, revealing a massive crater once the dust settled. Her Holy Sword shattered into pieces. As she fell, the monster had already begun to regenerate. She apologized to Thunder, believing this was the end. To her surprise, Vil slammed his hammer down on Thunder's core, and when she landed gracefully, she was speechless to see Thunder fully restored. The monster launched multiple attacks with its tentacles, but none could penetrate Vil's barrier. He believed the weapon was not just a tool, it was a protector, a companion, and a family to its wielder. As memories of successfully restoring ice flashed through his mind, Vil glared at the monster. He asked if it enjoyed bringing misery by destroying something so precious. Right now, Vil was absolutely furious. The monster launched an attack toward Vil, so Leica quickly stepped in to protect her master. As she whipped it with her Holy Sword, she informed him that the monster had the ability to regenerate, but to her surprise, it didn't regenerate at all. Vil had not only restored Thunder, the Holy Sword, but had also powered it up. Poro cut off one of the monster's tentacles, but Yozora warned her that the monster could drain the life force from divine weapons. After severing the tentacles, the monster's main body was finally revealed, the Lion God. Its hair surged toward them like a wave, but they managed to dodge and block the incoming attacks. Gritting their teeth, overwhelmed by the sheer number of hair tendrils, Vil instructed everyone to fall back. He used Mjolnir on himself and activated transmutation, specifically body transformation. Confident he could face the Lion God alone, he waited until it launched another attack, then easily dodged and appeared behind it. Poro was stunned by his speed. As the lion attacked again, Vil swiftly countered with Mjolnir. His body had been enhanced with physical boosts, body modification, and super transmutation, temporarily transforming his cells into those of a superhuman. As the two Chica babies cheered for their master, Rowley noticed something strange. This lion was like her. It was suffering and possessed by an evil will. Vil had already realized this. His eyes were fixed on the red gem embedded in the lion's forehead, the source of the curse. The gem was fused to the lion's brain, making it extremely dangerous to remove, much like Leica's curse. Vil fell silent, disturbed by the cruel design of the curse. The lion leaped at him, so Vil jumped into the air and activated Form Shift Major, combining it with all destruction and super alchemy. He smashed Mjolnir down onto the lion's forehead to break the curse. The curse vanished into thin air. When it was over, the lion collapsed to the ground, kicking up a thick cloud of dust with its massive body. Vil approached and gently assured the lion that it could now rest. The cursed eye had been destroyed. He was surprised when the lion talked because he had assumed the lion was male, but now realized she was female. She expressed her gratitude for sparing her life and left with heart attack effects. While Leica was annoyed that yet another bizarre rival had appeared, Vil mumbled that the lion was livelier than he had expected. Suddenly, something strange burst from underground. As it grew into a towering giant, it voiced its irritation in a grating tone. Vil smirked. He had been waiting for it to show itself. He'd suspected it was lurking underground, monitoring its underlings. The creature was shocked that Vil had discovered its presence, but Vil clarified that he didn't actually know its plan. He had simply altered the artifact's structure and had no intention of letting it live. The creature was a Tsukumogami, a cursed spirit born from a powerful artifact created by the Seven Treasures. The Tsukumogami's goal wasn't to protect the sacred artifacts, but to destroy them. But before it could act, Vil intended to shatter it completely. The Tsukumogami launched multiple tentacles toward Vil, calling him a filthy human. The girls grew worried and wanted to help, but Vil warned them to stay back. Touching it would endanger the night sky itself. Since physical contact was forbidden, he summoned the alchemy, Iron Forest, to block the tentacles. However, the tentacles slipped through and struck the ground with immense force. As the girls feared for Vil's safety, the Tsukumogami mocked them, claiming that no mere human could harm gods with their own creations. To its shock, Vil appeared midair, poised for a counterattack. Now that he knew the creature could only be slain with a sacred artifact, he connected his divine hammer Mjolnir and hurled it. The Tsukumogami was confident it could shatter the hammer, but to its horror, the weapon transformed mid-air into a giant holy sword, piercing straight through its body. Tsukumogami was stunned. He knew Vil only had one sacred artifact. How could he also possess a holy sword? Vil calmly explained. He did only possess the sacred hammer, but he had created a holy sword on the spot. Since it was merely an imitation, the holy sword dulled when Tsukumogami tried to free its tentacles. Once the creature broke free, Vil revealed another secret. Fake artifacts, even when they disappear, can be replicated with magic. He then used his ultimate skill, infinite counterfeit replication, to mimic the structure of his storage box. This box, created by the former wielder of the Golden Hand, held the memory of sacred artifacts. As long as magic remained, it could replicate and temporarily summon divine weapons. When the gigantic weapons surrounded the monster, Vil's 3 companions were left speechless. Just as Vil prepared to launch the weapons, Tsukumogami attempted a sneak attack from underground, but Vil had already placed weapons below, preventing the tentacles from reaching him. He launched every weapon at once, unleashing devastating power. Tsukumogami screamed in agony as it slowly disintegrated, vowing that Lord Shichifukujin would avenge it and destroy Vil. Vil turned away with a solemn expression. After a while, the 3 pairs of melons fight over who will nurse Vil. To stop their useless fight, Vil assured them his mana had already recovered and that he could eat independently. Still, the 3 balloons insist on feeding him, leaving him no choice but to agree. The wielder of the floppy twin mountain of Fuji arrived, concerned about his health. Since he is the treasure of the Madokus Empire, she insists on fully examining him. Caroline clarified that our lucky boy was a citizen of the Gerdaniga Kingdom, but to her shock, Vil was already granted noble status in the Madokus Kingdom. Caroline was worried he was no longer part of the Gerdaniga Kingdom, but Vil assured her he was always looking after her. That word sent a chill to every inch of her cave, making her release a choo-choo smoke from the train and embarrassingly run to hide her red face. Since Vil was now the great hero of the Madokus Kingdom, they had no plan to let him go. If he hadn't shown up, the Empire would be done for, so they really owe him this one. Vil believed he didn't really do anything to get their gratitude. It just happened that he was a good match against the Tsukumogami. He wasn't strong like they think. It was just that the artifacts were powerful. Seeing their great hero's humility made them silent for a few seconds and then chuckle. At the Comet Inn, Sirikul was pushed outside begging a woman for help because she is the only one can help them. The lady shows her the news about Hassan's trading nearing collapse and then closes the door. Now that no one wanted to be their craftsman and no one dared touching their products, Sirikul made a decision to ask Vil for help. So she stood up holding the newspaper, determined to find him. On the other hand, her husband, who looks like a beggar now, was in the middle of town, carrying a large bag of weapons. He looked really crazy now as he held the cursed item and shouted to his potential customer about his product. The people were excited to see his product, and when he opened the bag, their eyes sparkled at the sight of legendary items. Each item only cost 1,000 gold, a bargain price for legendary items. Sechin was sure he would make a ton of money with this and show it to Sirikul. To try the Excalibur sword, the magician created a crystal, and when the swordsman struck it, the crystal was cut in half smoothly. Seeing this made the people nearby go crazy for his weapon, but the man who tested the Excalibur earlier stated he wouldn't pay for this trash, because there was no way a legendary Excalibur would get damaged like this from slicing the crystal. They assume it was fake, but Sechin clarified it was normal for an Excalibur to chip. The swordsman knew that when one touched a legendary weapon, they would feel the sheer pressure and aura, but this one was just a cheap prop. He threw it to the ground, and to his shock, the said Excalibur broke into pieces. With that, he believed that this crazy Sechin never saw a real legendary weapon. The people call him a fraud, but this idiot still believes he is a real craftsman with great talent from Hassan's company. These people had already read about the Hassan company, so they became more furious, declaring they would never buy from Hassan again. An intense force was released from him when he raised the illusionary curse seal, shouting that he had real talent. Before the situation worsened, Sirikul arrived, asking if he had done something again. Sechin just wanted to save Hassan's trading company, but Sirikul wanted him to stop his nonsense and show the newspaper where Vil was declared as the great hero who saved an empire. Seeing his brother's image made Sechin more furious, so he kicked the newspaper towards her pregnant tummy. He was sick of hearing Vil's name and already had enough. He doesn't care about heroes or legendary weapons and would rather die than apologize to Vil. Since Sirikul already had Sechin, there is nothing she need. Sirikul slapped the ugliness out of this crazy bastard, shouting that he had no talent. She turns her back and plans on going alone to apologize to Vil. The ugly beggar curses into the air like an insane monkey, and then smashes the cursed item to the ground. People grew worried by his behavior and asked someone to call the knights. Sechin, wearing a violent expression, was already scheming to steal his brother's talent upon his return. Inside a train, while Sirikul was deep in thought about Vil, a child in front of her was gently fixing her doll's hair. Suddenly, the doll's head detached. Since the girl's mother didn't have a sewing kit, a hooded man offered to fix it. He placed his hand, marked with the same symbol as Vil's, near the doll, and it was instantly restored. Amazed by the magic, the girl and her mother thanked him politely. The man smiled, saying he just can't walk away when he sees someone down on their luck. Noticing the mark on his hand, Sirikul asked if he was the famous legendary blacksmith and whether the symbol was Golden Hand. Hoping it possessed the same power as Vil's, she invited him to work for her company. The man, however, already knew she was from the Hassan company and had heard of their recent struggles. He declined, explaining he had no plans to join any organization as he was currently on a journey to create something of his own. Sirikul apologized, admitting she didn't know what else to do, especially with a baby on the way. The mention of a baby caught his attention. He believed babies were the most fascinating creations and then offered her a piece of candy to lift her spirits. I think this guy is an idiot because Big Bazooka doesn't want candy but a lollipop. Anyway, she thanked him and put the candy in her mouth. Immediately, a flowery, blissful sensation washed over her as if she were in heaven. The man smiled at her reaction and stood up, saying this is where he got off. The older woman was confused because the train wouldn't stop until it reached the capital. The hooded man told her not to worry and instructed the child to take good care of the doll. After saying his goodbyes, the train suddenly shook. Despite the turbulence, Cyril still seemed entranced, lost in her peaceful state. The train came to a violent stop. The impact caused parts of it to collapse, injuring many passengers. Amid the chaos, the hooded man chuckled, satisfied with the destruction. He was the Shichifukujin, one of the 7 fortune dust. I think the guy was the person Tsukumogami mentioned before it died. Vil, who was passing by riding the white dragon, was terrified to see the tragic situation, since they couldn't afford to waste time waiting for rescuers or evacuating injured people. Vil took immediate action. He activated his golden hand to confirm what needed to be fixed. There is a pregnancy, cardiac arrest, brain hemorrhage, and internal organs. After assessing the situation, he smashes the Mjolnir down and activates the full restoration. People and objects flew into the air, and after a while, all back to normal. Cyril looked above, and upon realizing it was Vil, she kneeled and apologized for what she had done. Vil landed on the ground and extended his hand, stating that the passengers would get checkups at the Imperial Capital Hospital. Since Cyril was pregnant, she needed to take her there first. Recalling how Sechin kicks her, she apologizes again, but suddenly loses consciousness. Vil put all the women and children first in Rolly's back and the others with the rescue team. When they left, Vil looked around but saw nothing wrong with the tracks. Poro assumed someone planned this using magic, so Vil took a look inside the train. He saw a black haze where the hooded man sat earlier, but Poro couldn't see it. He tried to trace it and saw it was moving above. The black haze came from this doll, which Shikifukujin had fixed earlier. Vil had a bad feeling about this, so he alerted Poro that they would be heading back to the capital immediately. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you love this manga. Have a good day.